Never give up. It sounds simple, I know. But there are days when those words feel almost unreachable. There are mornings when you wake up and it feels like life is just an endless uphill battle. Your job weighs heavily on your mind. Broken relationships sap your energy, and you begin to wonder if it's time to stop trying. I'm not here today to offer you empty reassurance. I'm here as someone who has stared adversity straight in the face. Just as Epictetus once said, it's not what life throws at you, it's how you choose to respond that truly matters. Let me be clear, giving up may seem like the most natural response, but it's also the surest path to losing yourself. We give up because we're scared, because we're disappointed, or because the pain becomes too much to bear. But hear this, every journey that holds meaning requires endurance. At times it feels like you're riding an emotional roller coaster, hopeful one moment, hopeless the next. That doesn't mean you're on the wrong road, it means you're on a real one. And that's exactly why I need you to listen, not with fleeting feelings, but with calm and steady reasoning. In this video, I'm going to break down 5 reasons, grounded in personal experience, real-life observation, and Stoic principles that will remind you why giving up should never be the option. But before we dive in, leave a comment. I never give up. That's more than just a phrase. It's a promise you make to yourself. Because sometimes persistence isn't just about saving a dream. Sometimes it saves you. Number 1, the power of the initial decision. I used to believe that people changed when their circumstances did, when a better opportunity appeared, or when someone finally gave them a shot. But Stoicism taught me something else entirely. Real change doesn't begin on the outside. It starts with a decision made within. No one lifts you out of the mud unless you first choose to rise. I remember myself at 12, sitting by myself in the corner of a room, hunched over a thick math textbook. The pages were covered in sweat stains and worn-out eraser marks. The problem made no sense. The numbers looked like another language. The more I read, the more confused I became. My teacher's harsh feedback, the look of pity in my classmates' eyes, it all came flooding back. I felt stupid, useless, like I didn't belong. Wrapped in a cold, heavy blanket of isolation in the dead of winter, I nearly stood up. I almost walked away, but then a single thought rose to the surface. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady. I won't give up. Not because I had some clever plan, not because I thought I was smarter than anyone else, but because I didn't want quitting to become who I was. So I stayed. 10 more minutes, then 20, then the entire afternoon. I began writing down each step, each awkward, clumsy thought, not to impress anyone, just to become someone I could respect. Someone who doesn't walk away just because it's tough. That, in Stoicism, is what they call the ultimate freedom. The freedom to choose our response. The world can strip away our money, our health, even the people we love. But it cannot take away how we decide to face it. When I said, I won't give up, I wasn't declaring a war against the world. I was making a promise to myself. In that moment, my brain stopped searching for escape routes and began looking for a path forward. A small decision, yes, but with a powerful order. Find a way, even if it's just one tiny step. There's something strange about the mind. It listens to us more than we realize. The moment you say, I'm not stopping here, it starts to shift. It gets in gear. It stops holding out for some miracle and starts building progress. I saw this same spark in Jim Bob Arnold, a man who once said his life changed because of just 7 words. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. Those weren't lines from a motivational book or some polished speech. They came to him one ordinary afternoon as he sat, defeated, staring at a nearly 300-page math textbook he had to finish in just a week. Nobody thought he'd finish it. His teacher called it a test of patience. His friends joked he'd quit by day 3. Even his parents said, if it's too much, it's okay to stop. But he didn't stop because his decision had already been made. I'm going to finish this. There was no secret formula. He just woke up 30 minutes earlier each day. He read a few more pages each night before bed. Little by little, he moved forward. A week later, he finished it. No one could believe it, but he knew why. Because he refused to give up. That same mindset eventually helped Jim become a stockbroker. Not because he had some rare talent, but because he wouldn't surrender. The more I study Stoicism, the clearer this becomes. Every remarkable journey starts with what looks like an ordinary decision. There's no spotlight, no applause, just you and a quiet voice in your head saying, I'm choosing to continue. That first decision is like planting a seed. It doesn't bloom right away, but with consistent action, with daily care, it takes root. Far deeper than any hollow promise or fleeting motivation ever could. Because you're not waiting for the perfect moment. You act, even when you're uncertain, unprepared, or running on empty. Someone once asked me, how do you not give up when everything's working against you? I didn't have an inspiring answer. I only had one honest truth. You have to believe in the decision itself, even before it produces any results. Just like Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, if it is endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. If it can be endured, then you endure it. Don't complain. That sentence won't fire up a crowd, but it captures the essence of Stoicism. Choose action over self-pity. Choose responsibility instead of blame. Choose to keep going simply because it's the right thing to do. We often imagine successful people have some rare edge, but most of the time they only have one thing others don't. They made a decision and stayed with it, even when they doubted themselves. Especially then, you can start today. You don't need the perfect strategy. You don't need to wait until you feel ready. You just need one clear sentence spoken in your mind. I won't give up. Then you get up, then you try, then you fail, then you keep going. Because once your decision is made with true clarity, your inner world begins to shift. It stops asking, can I really do this? And starts asking, what's next? And I. Number 2, persistence through failure. I once had a friend, a young, quiet, slender theater director who always carried a battered old notebook. He once told me something I've never forgotten. I will try exactly 100 times. No more, no less. If by the 100th time, no one accepts my script, I'll stop. But not a second before. That wasn't some impulsive declaration. It was a personal vow. The first rejection, he shrugged. The second, he took notes and restructured the script. The third, a director laughed in his face and dismissed it as a student-level piece. By the fourth, he was furious, tore up the pages, and doubted if he was even meant for this work. But he came back. He sat down. He kept writing. The 5th time, the 6th, the 11th, the 28th. That's when I understood something. Persistence isn't a miracle. It's a discipline. Daily, quiet, determined. Then came the 63rd attempt. A producer picked up the script, read it silently, nodded, and said just 3 words. This can work. That moment wasn't magic. It was Stoicism in action, because failure doesn't destroy us. What destroys us is how we respond to it. Stoic thought reminds us, resilience isn't about stubbornly enduring pain. It's about turning that pain into strength. Every failure is not a defeat. It's an incomplete attempt, a chance to revise the map. Don't go this way. Try slower here. Adjust over there. I used to think resilience was a gift only the strong were born with. I was wrong. Resilience isn't inherited. It's built, forged in real experiences through actual failure. I still remember my first time on stage, auditioning for a student play. Just a minor role. I had rehearsed for 3 weeks, memorized every line, every cue. I thought I was ready. I finished the audition. The director looked at me and said, "Thank you, but you're not right for the part." That was it. No feedback, no encouragement, no maybe next time. I stepped outside. My hands were frozen. One single thought kept circling in my head. I'm not good enough. I nearly tossed the script in the trash, but instead I folded it and wrote one line across the cover. First failed audition. I kept it, not to punish myself, but to remind myself of something important. Everyone starts with rejection. Each no is just another patch of ground you have to dig through to build your own stage. There's no shortcut to the spotlight that doesn't go straight through darkness. That day, I made a personal promise. Next time, I'll come back stronger. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." I don't just read that quote, I live by it. Anytime I'm set back, I hear that line in my head like a mantra. Obstacles don't block the path, they are the path. And once you truly understand that, failure loses its power to scare you. Instead, it becomes your tool, like a lever used in mechanics. The more resistance you meet, the more force you can apply. That screenwriter, my friend, didn't just get rejected. He studied each critique. He rewrote dialogue. He adjusted structure. He reshaped pacing. By the 63rd draft, his success wasn't luck. It was the result of 62 failures turned into skill. And through all this, I came to realize something subtle. Failure itself doesn't hurt the most. What really stings is losing your sense of purpose. Because when you give up, you don't just lose one opportunity. You risk losing your identity. Stoicism doesn't tell you to numb your feelings. On the contrary, it tells you to feel deeply and then to shape that feeling into right action. Cry if you must, but when you're done, wipe your tears and keep going. No one's coming to do that part for you. One of the greatest Stoic lessons is this: you can't control the world, but you can always control your response. And persistence is exactly that, a deliberate response. When you keep going, you're not resisting other people. You're resisting the part of yourself that wants to quit. I once asked a mentor, "How do you deal with the constant feeling of failure?" He smiled and answered immediately, "You keep going. The feeling doesn't vanish, but it shrinks when you grow every day." He was right. At first, failure felt like a punch to the gut. Later, just a tap on the shoulder. Didn't work this time? Try again. Not because the pain disappeared, but because I learned it had a purpose. Stoicism doesn't glorify pain. It doesn't tell you pain is good. It simply asks, what will you do with this pain? Will you let it push you down or use it as proof that you're still fighting? Out there in the world, you'll always find people who are faster, smarter, luckier. But the world also makes room for those who are more relentless. No one can stop you if you just keep moving forward. Yes, you will trip. You'll question yourself. You'll have mornings where getting out of bed feels impossible. You'll stare in the mirror and think, what the hell am I doing? But if you don't quit, if you keep showing up, you will start winning. Not because the odds finally bent in your favor, but because you earned it. Because you chose to rise again and again and again. So now it's your turn. Will you try again or give up? Will you rise or stay down? You think it's been easy for me. It hasn't. I've been exhausted. I've fallen. I've wanted to erase it all. But I kept writing. Not because I knew I'd succeed, but because I refused to live as someone who gave up. Resilience isn't about staying on your feet at all times. It's about deciding again and again, I will rise. That's the real meaning of never give up in Stoic philosophy. And once you truly understand that, you won't need anyone else to tell you to keep going. because from now on, you will become the one who reminds yourself. Number 3, the journey of continuous effort. There was a time I believed one breakthrough moment, one rush of motivation, would be enough to change everything. I waited for it 1 month, 6 months, a year. But nothing changed, because here's the truth. There's no single moment powerful enough to rescue you from your own delay. No one's coming to knock on your door at 5 a.m. No one's going to remind you to write, to train, to stay on track. It's just you. And whatever effort you're willing to give, especially the quiet, consistent kind. Seneca once said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult." That line hit me hard. I had spent years blaming my circumstances and my starting point, my distractions, all the things I couldn't control. But the real resistance wasn't out there. It was inside. Hesitation, fear, especially the fear of starting small. Stoicism doesn't ask for miracles. It doesn't demand grand gestures. It simply asks one thing: stop making excuses. Do something. Seneca even called chronic complaining a poison of the soul. Every time you say, "I'm not ready," or "I don't have time," you're laying down the bricks of your own prison. And someday, you'll look up and realize no one trapped you. You shut the door yourself. Every excuse? It's a heartbeat of stagnation. But every small act, just 10 minutes of real effort, 5 minutes of focus, is a pinprick of light. You feel a shift, you see a flicker of progress. That flicker gives you something powerful, a little confidence, a little fire. That's how you crawl out of the dark, not all at once, but inch by inch. There was a point when everything fell apart for me. Plans failed. Confidence crumbled. I was waking up late, doubting my worth. So I didn't aim big. I didn't try to conquer the world in one swing. I set my alarm for 6 a.m. That's it. My goal was simple. Wake up and sit still for 5 minutes, nothing more. The next day, I wrote a few lines. The day after that, I read them back. Then I wrote a little more. Day by day, that tiny spark grew. Eventually, it became this piece, all from something that looked trivial at first. That's the power of small effort, not flashy, not heroic, just consistent. And every day, I beat the version of me from yesterday. That's a victory no one can take away. People think progress needs to be loud and impressive. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. It's the repetition, the rituals, the morning you show up, and the evening you resist the urge to quit. That's what builds greatness. Greatness isn't a climax, it's a process. I know a question many people ask themselves: how do I begin again? The answer is brutally simple. You begin again by beginning again. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for certainty. Begin messy. Begin tired. Begin right now. You don't need a master plan. You need one action, one real step. Action creates results. Results build belief. Belief fuels motivation, and momentum follows. Meanwhile, others stay stuck. They scroll, they sigh, they talk about their goals, but never move. They feel helpless and spiral further. But someone else, with far less time, energy, or resources, writes down 3 small tasks each morning and completes just one. Then they come back tomorrow and do it again. 6 months later, they're somewhere completely different, not because they moved faster, but because they moved. You don't need to sprint, you just need to keep stepping. The Stoics never praised hustle for its own sake. They taught intentional effort, clear eyes, conscious choices, small steps taken on purpose. So don't wait to feel inspired. Let your action create the inspiration. Tired? Take a breath. Afraid? Take a step. Hurting? Keep writing. Not perfectly, not quickly. Just keep going. You don't have to be extraordinary to justify trying. Your effort, no matter how small, is already enough to start shaping you into something better. Stop waiting for the right time. Make the time right. Stop chasing perfection, practice consistency, and don't stop, ever. If you're starting from scratch or starting over, drop a comment. Tell your story. Have you been stuck in a rut? How did you climb out? Or if you don't know where to begin, just write. I will start today. I'll read every word, because maybe your words are the push someone else has been waiting for. You're not alone in this, neither am I. Number 4, the power of personal choice and commitment. I said I would, so I will. Not because someone is watching, not because there's a deadline, but because I made a promise to myself. Some days I wake up ready, energized. Other days I want to disappear, to vanish into silence. But every time I come back to one question: how have I chosen to live? That question clears away the fog of excuses. It breaks through the comfortable lies we tell ourselves. I'm tired. I'm not ready. It's not the right time. All of them are subtle forms of escape. Stoicism doesn't ask you to be perfect. It doesn't demand that you be unshakable. It reminds you of something deeper. You can feel fragile, but still refuse to give away your power. You can feel afraid, but still choose how to respond. Every shift in life begins with something incredibly simple, a decision. And once you decide, truly decide, the next step is commitment, not in theory, not when it's convenient, in action. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." That kind of freedom isn't found in money or status. It lives in your ability to choose your response, no matter what's happening around you. It begins the moment you take full responsibility for your choices. I used to wonder, who am I in this world? I had dreams, but also fears. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of being seen and misunderstood. Then I realized, no one else gets to steer my life. Not my parents, not my partner, not my boss, only me. That's when I started practicing what the Stoics call inner commitment. It's not loud. It doesn't need a social media post or a vision board. It's a quiet contract you make with yourself. And when you break that contract, you're the one who feels the crack the deepest. I promised myself I'd write every day. So even if no one reads it, I write. I promised I'd train my body. So even on the days I'm tired, I move. Why? Because if you don't honor your own word, you slowly stop believing in it. And when you stop believing in your own word, why should anyone else? That's where self-respect is born. That's how discipline forms. That's how belief becomes behavior. I once heard a founder say he had nothing, no money, no support, except for one sentence taped above his desk. I create, I conquer, I hold the power. That wasn't a slogan, that was his compass. He didn't wait for permission. He chose to build, to move, to act. When you live like that, you don't need someone to validate your path. You just need to keep your promise. Most people never choose what they're truly living for. They drift. They live for other people's expectations, until one day they can't even remember what they wanted. But Stoicism reminds us, there's nothing more important than choosing your purpose and proving it every single day with your actions. You want to be strong? Choose strength and then practice it. You want purpose? Commit to it, especially when no one else notices. Because commitment isn't a feeling, it's a decision, a daily one. There was a time I failed hard. A project collapsed. I lost nearly everything. Money, trust, confidence. I sat in silence, staring at the ceiling, asking, what now? And then I remembered something I'd written in a notebook months earlier. I will not quit, not because I had energy, not because I had clarity, but because I had made a promise. And that promise was still standing, even when everything else had crumbled. That's what commitment really is. The quiet fire beneath the surface, the invisible anchor that holds you steady when the storm hits. So if you're at a breaking point today, I'm not asking if you're feeling strong. I'm asking, Are you still honoring your word? If the answer is yes, then keep going. One small step is enough to stay true. One step keeps the flame alive. You see, real power doesn't come from circumstances, not from talent, not from luck. It comes from a choice, and from the discipline to make that choice again, and again, and again. We don't rebuild our lives through dramatic moments. We rebuild them through daily, steady, stubborn persistence. And if you think this mindset only works when life is calm, just wait, because the Stoic doesn't just endure the fire. The Stoic becomes forged in it. Number 5, turning difficulties into opportunities. When Thomas Edison failed for the 1,000th time, he didn't collapse in defeat. He said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That wasn't delusion. That was someone who understood the truth. Adversity isn't the enemy, it's the teacher. Edison didn't invent the light bulb through luck. He wasn't a born genius in the way people like to imagine. What he was committed, and what he believed was that failure wasn't a wall, it was a compass. That belief isn't just the spirit of invention, it's the backbone of Stoic philosophy. To the Stoics, failure is never final. It's feedback, it's material, it's the training ground for strength. Seneca said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." That's not just poetic, it's been proven for thousands of years. If you want to build physical strength, you lift, you sweat, you strain. If you want to build mental resilience, you face discomfort, you endure setbacks, you learn to stand back up. I'm not writing this from theory. I've had moments when life collapsed under me. I've felt stuck, ashamed, defeated, and I'm still here, not because it didn't hurt, but because I learned something most people miss. Pain is temporary, but what you learn from it can last forever. At some point, hardship is going to knock on your door. It won't ask permission. You'll be betrayed. You'll fail at something that mattered to you. You'll lose. You'll doubt. You'll feel lost. But in that space, a choice appears. You either let it consume you, or you learn to swim in it. Stoicism always chooses the second path. Marcus Aurelius, emperor, philosopher, Stoic, once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." At first, it sounds like a contradiction, but the more you sit with it, the more powerful it becomes. We don't grow in ease. We grow when we're forced to act in chaos. We grow when we're pushed against the wall and forced to find a way through, and sometimes the path you never wanted is exactly the path you needed. Someone once asked me, "But what if I'm not strong enough to handle this?" I told them, "Then this is exactly what you need." Not because I wanted to be cruel, but because strength is never revealed until you meet your limits and break through them. Edison didn't stop at failure number 50, or number 500, or number 999. Because he didn't fear failure, he used it. He treated every setback like a map. Every wrong turn narrowed the path toward the right one. And that's what Stoicism teaches. Don't run from hardship. Don't curse your fate. Ask instead, what can I learn from this? Change the question. Change your life. The power of refusing to quit isn't about victory or defeat. It's about identity. It's about saying, no matter what happens, I don't let life define me. I define me. You can lose, you can break, you can be hurt deeply, but if you choose to stand back up, you're still in control. You still own your dignity. I remember a time when a project I had poured months into collapsed. I felt like I had nothing left. But that night, after hours of sitting with the pain, I opened my notebook and wrote 3 words: learn, rise, move. That's what saved me. That's what kept me from disappearing. You can do that too. You don't need to wait for perfect clarity or confidence. You just need to accept this. Pain is part of the process. If you only take action when it's easy, you'll never build anything that lasts. Stoicism doesn't make life easier, it makes you stronger, and that, if you really think about it, is the greatest gift adversity can give you. When life tests you, you always have a choice. You can collapse and ask, "Why me?" Or you can raise your head and say, "Let me handle this." I choose the second, and if you're reading this, I hope you do too, because hardship is not the obstacle, it is the way. Conclusion. We've been on a journey together, from what might have seemed like a small decision to something much deeper, a mindset, one that helps you stay grounded, focused, and strong. Even when life doesn't go your way. Don't give up isn't just a feel-good slogan. It's how the Stoics lived. They didn't deny difficulty, they didn't chase perfection. They accepted reality, chose steady action, and stayed true to themselves, even when it hurt. From that first flicker of resolve, to the struggle of daily effort, to the quiet act of keeping your word when no one's watching, all of it adds up. That's how real progress happens. That's how change becomes permanent. Now, it's your turn. In your life, was there ever a moment when you felt like giving up, but didn't? What kept you going? What gave you the strength to stand up one more time? Drop your story in the comments. You never know who needs to hear it, and your words might just be the light someone else is waiting for. If this video helped you, give it a like, share it with someone who could use a lift, and hit subscribe. This journey through Stoic philosophy has only just begun. Are you ready to rise again? Good. Let's begin with Stoicism by your side. And remember, don't give up. Don't ever give up.